A massive crowd is screaming for their orders at the market stall. Amatashiro is busy keeping up with the demand, calling out sizes as he hands out the goods. Aina helps him out, thanking the customers with a big smile as she hands over a package. They've officially sold out. Aina is thrilled, but Shiro's already focused on the mountain of coins they've collected. He does the math. After accounting for his initial costs, he's looking at a profit of about 1.6 million yen. The sheer amount of cash leaves him stunned. He can barely believe the numbers. Aina looks at him with pure admiration, telling him his selling speed is basically magic. Shiro plays it cool. The compliment clearly gets to him. To understand how he got here, we have to go back to modern-day Japan. Shiro is staring at something he can't quite explain. He's standing in the middle of a dense forest with a random door behind him. In front of him, a fantasy town sits nestled between jagged peaks under two moons. But when he looks back through the door, he's just looking at his grandmother's memorial altar. He had just moved into the old house his grandma left him, and now things are getting weird. He tries to convince himself it's just a hallucination. He had just quit a soul-crushing job a month ago, after all. He slams the door shut, figuring he's finally snapped. Then he hears a knock from the other side. He reopens it to find the forest is still there. He turns back to his grandma's photo, wondering if she knew about this. She'd been missing for 7 years before being declared deceased. He remembers her always teasing him about a big secret. She'd promised to tell him when he was older, but she vanished before she ever got the chance. Looking at the goofy photo she left behind, Shiro can't help but find the situation a little ridiculous. Then he spots a letter tucked behind the frame addressed directly to him. The letter is a bombshell. She claims she was a witch from another world called Rafalsho. She lays out the basics. The closet is a portal, magic is real, and there are plenty of dangerous monsters and talking creatures over there. She tells him not to hesitate, promising he'll understand everything once he steps through. Shiro's head is spinning. He finds the magic ring and 2 books she mentioned, though he can't read a single word in them. As soon as he puts the ring on, the gibberish turns into Japanese. He's impressed. A voice in his head announces he's gained the equivalent exchange skill. It feels like he stepped into a video game. He gets another notification. He's obtained the inventory skill. He starts testing it out by absorbing a book into thin air. Shiro decides to take his grandmother's advice. He's taking the plunge. It's already dark, so he plans to hit the hardware store for supplies and head out the next morning. He says a final goodbye to the photo of his grandma before setting off. The next day, Shiro is fully geared up and ready for his first real adventure. He steps through the portal and starts the long trek toward the town he saw earlier. The landscape is peaceful, filled with rolling hills and quaint-looking houses. Entering the town, he sees all kinds of people, including adventurers and a cat girl walking past. The marketplace is bustling with vendors selling strange, fantasy produce. The walk has worked up an appetite, and Shiro starts looking for something to eat. A loud vendor catches his attention, offering him a cheap meat skewer. It's jackalope meat, and it only costs 3 copper coins. The smell is incredible. Shiro's stomach starts growling. He checks his pockets, but he only has yen, about 4,200 of it. He wishes he could just use his own money. Suddenly, a magic circle appears over his cash, and the bills vanish into thin air. Shiro panics as his hard-earned money disappears, replaced by a shower of fantasy coins. The vendor confirms it's a copper coin, and Shiro is pumped. His equivalent exchange skill actually works. The guy figures out Shiro is a foreigner because of his weird clothes. Shiro just laughs it off. He orders 3 more skewers, and the vendor hooks him up with a small discount for coming all this way. Shiro takes a massive bite, and he's in heaven. This is his first real meal in another world. Even though the meat is a little bland, he's too hungry to care. He's already thinking about his next move. He decides to test the skill further. If he can turn yen into copper, can he turn it back? He looks at the coins in his hand, focusing on activating the skill again. With a flash, the copper turns back into Japanese yen. It's official. He has a 2-way exchange system. This means he can convert currency from either world at will. The potential is limitless. He imagines himself drowning in cash back in Japan. This is the ultimate get-rich-quick scheme. He tries it with a 10,000 yen bill this time, curious about the higher denominations. The bill turns into a shiny silver coin. He asks the vendor if he can pay with it, but the guy doesn't have change for something that valuable. Shiro realizes 100 yen equals 1 copper, and 1 silver is worth a whopping 10,000 yen. After converting all his money, he ends up with 2 silver coins and 34 copper. His small coins didn't convert, though. Feeling like a high roller, Shiro heads out to explore the town and see what else he can buy. The marketplace is even bigger than he thought. He's taking everything in, still amazed by the sheer scale of the place. He's desperate to talk to people, especially the locals with cat ears, but he's too nervous to approach them. Everyone is staring at his modern clothes, making him realize he's sticking out like a sore thumb. He definitely needs a wardrobe change. As he walks, someone calls out to him, trying to get his attention. It's a little girl holding a basket of flowers, looking a bit shy. She asks if he'd like to buy some flowers. Shiro's surprised to see a kid working like this. He asks for the price, and she tells him they're 2 copper coins each. Seeing his hesitation, she immediately offers a lower price, worried she's asking for too much. Shiro's just surprised by the conversion rate. 2 copper coins is only 200 yen, practically nothing to him. He points to a yellow one and says he'll take it. The girl can't believe her luck. He offers 3 copper coins instead, which was her original price. He also wants to pick her brain for some local info. The girl introduces herself as Aina. She's happy to help. He introduces himself as Shiro Amata, and Aina is happy to meet him. They seal the deal with a handshake. Aina tells him they're in Ninarich, a small town in the Jiruum Kingdom. Shiro's soaking up all the new information. He learns that 100 copper makes 1 silver, and 100 silver makes 1 gold coin. A single gold coin is worth 1,000,000 yen. It turns out most people here only earn about 8 silver coins a month. Most have never even seen a gold coin in person. Aina explains that as long as you register at the town hall, anyone can do business in the market. Shiro thinks that's great news. He asks to buy 10 more flowers, and Aina nearly falls over in shock. She thinks he's joking. He hands over 30 copper coins, explaining that he wants to brighten up his room. Aina is speechless. She thanks him profusely, her voice shaking with gratitude. Shiro just smiles. He mentions his grandma would have liked them, but then quickly brushes it off. Aina's just happy she made a sale. She's beaming, telling him how happy it makes her that he liked her flowers. Shiro asks for directions to the town hall, and Aina offers to lead the way. She's practically skipping with joy, telling Shiro to follow her. They arrive at a grand-looking building, and Aina proudly announces it's the town hall. Shiro's a little nervous about being an outsider. Inside, they're met by a very stern-looking woman who immediately zeroes in on Shiro. She asks if he's a foreigner. She tells him he needs to write his name and how long he intends to stay. Shiro's just trying not to look suspicious. The receptionist explains the cost of being a street peddler. 3 copper coins a day, which is only 300 yen. Shiro's liking these prices. A spot in the market costs 10 copper coins per day. Shiro realizes his money will go a long way here. A brick-and-mortar store is much more expensive at 3 silver coins a day, or 30,000 yen. For now, he'll stick to the market. He fills out the paperwork, marveling at how his magic ring automatically translates everything into the local language. Even his name sounds exotic to them. Shiro accidentally lets slip how cheap it all seems, but quickly tries to cover his tracks. He doesn't want to seem too wealthy. The receptionist is just happy to see a new business starting up. She gives him a warm smile, hoping he'll succeed. The whole process only took 15 minutes. Shiro's ready to get to work, thanking Aina for all her help. Aina seems a little sad to see him go, but Shiro's already focused on his next task. He's got big plans. Aina realizes Shiro is walking the wrong way and calls out to him. He's still a bit lost in this big town. She catches up to him and asks what he plans on selling tomorrow. She's genuinely curious about his business. Shiro admits he hasn't decided yet, so Aina suggests selling things for adventurers since there are so many of them around. Looking around, Shiro sees plenty of people in armor and realizes Aina is right. This town is a hub for adventurers. Aina mentions a forest full of monsters nearby. Shiro shudders, realizing he must have walked through it to get here. He's lucky to be alive. Aina explains that since most people are focused on adventuring, flowers aren't exactly in high demand. It's a tough business for a kid. She's so grateful Shiro bought her flowers, her eyes lighting up as she tells him how glad she is to have met him. Shiro gets a bit flustered by her sincerity. To make it up to her, Aina offers to give him a tour of the marketplace. They pass stalls selling all sorts of adventuring gear, lanterns, flint, even sleeping bags and mantles. Shiro's taking notes. Aina is a pro tour guide, pointing out everything from knives to rope. Shiro's impressed by her knowledge. As she leads him through the market, Shiro thinks about what a selfless kid she is. She's going to make someone very happy one day. Aina is still going, pointing out oil and cooking pots, while Shiro's starting to think he'd like to have a daughter as sweet as her. Aina finally asks him if he's decided what to sell. Shiro leans in and whispers his plan, leaving her looking completely baffled. The next morning, Shiro is up early and ready to go. He's excited to see if his plan will actually work. Aina is already there, having picked a fresh batch of flowers. Shiro's set up his own little spot, ready to start his new life as a peddler. Aina is all smiles, holding her basket of flowers. She's determined to sell them all to help her sick mom. Shiro waves her off as she heads into the crowd. But reality is harsh. People just push past her without a second glance. Seeing her struggle makes Shiro even more determined to make his own business a success. He sets up his stall, and it doesn't take long for a curious adventurer to stop by. Shiro introduces his product, matches, just tiny sticks that can light a fire anywhere. The guy isn't buying it. He's never heard of matches and doesn't see how something that small can actually work. To prove it, Shiro strikes one against the box. A small flame instantly flares to life. The adventurer looks like he just saw a miracle. He can't believe his eyes. A crowd immediately starts to gather, asking what the hell just happened. Shiro tells everyone to settle down and watch closely for a second demonstration. He strikes it again, and the crowd is completely baffled. They're starting to think it's some kind of high-tier magic. Shiro offers a match to the group, telling them anyone can use it because it's incredibly simple. He watches them with a smirk. Everything is going exactly according to plan. He realized earlier that fire-starting tools in this world are either clumsy or crazy expensive, so he brought a massive stash from Earth. Even an old dwarf who's seen it all is impressed, admitting he's never seen anything like this in 250 years. Shiro points out that unless you've got a mage, starting a fire with flint or sticks is a total nightmare. He pitches the matches as the ultimate solution. No more struggling to give spark. He holds up a box of matches, showing off the product that's about to change everything. The excitement hit a fever pitch, and everyone starts asking about the price. This was the moment Shiro was waiting for. One guy guesses they must be at least 80 copper coins, which gets the rest of the crowd worried. Shiro explains the two ways to do business. You can sell expensive luxury items to a few people, like fancy cars or high-end watches where one sale makes you a fortune. Or you can go for the mass market, selling cheap items to absolutely everyone. He slams his hand down on the counter to make his announcement. For the grand opening special, he's selling a box of 40 matches for just 5 copper coins. The crowd goes absolutely wild. Everyone starts screaming their orders at once. He sells out his first batch in no time and has to start handing out tickets for tomorrow. Once the chaos finally dies down, Shiro collapses on the ground, completely drained. He looks at the clouds rolling in and realizes that if he gets even more customers tomorrow, he's going to need a hand. Down the street, he spots Aina again. She hasn't had much luck selling her flowers. When she sees him, she puts on a brave face and tries to offer him one of her bouquets. She's stunned to find out he's already sold out and is finished for the day. Shiro checks in on her to see how her own sales went. Her smile fades as she admits that no one wanted to buy any flowers today. She quickly tries to rush off to keep trying before it gets too dark, but Shiro stops her. He reaches out and grabs her arm before she can leave. He asks her if she'd be interested in helping him out at his stall tomorrow instead. He promises to pay her well, and Aina is so shocked she can barely speak. She grabs his hand, tears welling up as she promises to work as hard as she can. Shiro tells her he should be the one thanking her, since he's the one who's bad at selling. Aina finally breaks down in tears of relief, overwhelmed by the chance to finally help her mom. Aina can't stop thanking him as they part ways. Shiro's already decided he's going to make sure she gets paid extra well for her help. They say their goodbyes, promising to meet up again tomorrow morning. Once he's alone, Shiro does a quick check to make sure nobody is watching him sneak into the alley. He holds out his hand and commands the portal to appear, just like a magic doorway. And just like that, he's back in the familiar surroundings of his grandmother's house in Japan. He calls it his anywhere door. He prepares to get down to business, ready to convert all those fantasy coins into real Japanese yen. He activates his equivalent exchange skill, and the pile of coins starts to transform into stacks of cash. He starts counting his profits, and the total is absolutely mind-blowing. In just 1 hour of work, he's earned more than he did in an entire month at his old, soul-crushing corporate job. He starts dreaming of the lazy NET life he's always wanted, but then he remembers he needs to restock for tomorrow. He heads over to a local hardware store called ANZ to pick up more supplies. While browsing the aisles, he finds something even better than standard matches: waterproof and wind-resistant survival matches. He fills his cart and heads to the checkout, where the cashier is clearly baffled by why anyone would need this many matches. Lugging all this stuff home would be a nightmare, but then Shiro remembers he has a much easier way to carry things. He heads up to the rooftop parking lot and prepares to use his next ability. He calls out his inventory skill, and a massive, swirling void opens up right in front of him. He's relieved to see it works perfectly, allowing him to store his entire haul without breaking a sweat. It's a huge upgrade from yesterday, when he had to cram every single box in his rucksack until it was bursting at the seams. The best part is the inventory screen, which gives him a perfect count of every item he's currently carrying. With everything ready to go, he's pumped to work his tail off the next few days. He's more motivated than ever. already picturing the millionaire life waiting for him. A mother and child look at him strangely as he talks to himself, but he just decides to turn in early and get some sleep. The next morning, over in the fantasy world, Aina is getting ready to head out for her first day as an assistant. Her mom is surprised she's leaving her flower basket behind, but Aina tells her with a huge smile that she's helping Shiro today. Back in Japan, Shiro stops by his grandmother's altar to say goodbye before heading back through the portal. He steps in the alleyway on the other side, taking a deep breath and getting ready to start the day's business. He finds Aina already waiting for him at their meeting spot, looking full of energy. They exchange happy greetings, and Aina is practically bouncing with excitement to get started. When they arrive at the market, they're shocked to see a massive crowd already lined up and waiting for them. They waste no time and start rummaging through their supplies to get everything set up as fast as possible. But there's a problem. The line is so long that it's starting to block the other stalls and cause a huge scene. Shiro's old corporate instincts kick in, and he realizes he's probably going to get a lot of heat for this. Just then, he's approached by the loud guy from the meat skewer stall and another woman. The vendor tells Shiro he's heard all the rumors about the incredible magic fire sticks he's been selling. He can see that Shiro is worried about the crowd and asks if something is wrong. The woman pipes in and offers their stall space for free, since they're located right at the edge of the market where the line won't block anyone. Shiro is stunned by their generosity and thanks them over and over for the help. An actual stall is a huge upgrade. He asks the guy if this is his wife, but he laughs it off and says she's just his little sister. Shiro thinks they look nothing alike. They follow the map across the marketplace to the new, more spacious location. They finally arrive at the new stall, and Shiro can't help but be impressed by the setup. Before they open, Shiro gives Aina a quick crash course on the different types of matches they're selling today. He officially opens the shop, calling for anyone with a numbered ticket to come forward while Aina nervously prepares to handle the rush. Aina is wide-eyed with wonder, watching the matches fly off the table. She can't believe how popular their items have become in such a short time. The stall is a whirlwind of activity, with Shiro handling the money while Aina assists the customers. Despite the chaos, Aina finds the life of a peddler to be a total blast. Eventually, they have to put up a sign because they've completely sold out of matches. The crowd behind them is absolutely shocked by how fast everything went. Both Shiro and Aina are exhausted from the morning rush, but Shiro makes sure to let her know that they couldn't have done it without her help. Shiro takes a moment to thank the siblings who let them use their stall space, while they happily wave off his gratitude. Shiro stares at the massive mountain of coins they've collected. He calculates that in just 3 hours, he's earned almost 1.5 million yen, a staggering amount compared to his previous job. He's completely dazed by the numbers, wondering if even actual millionaires pull in nearly 500,000 yen every single hour of work. The bag of coins is incredibly heavy, and Shiro struggles to even lift it. He knows he needs to stash this somewhere safe before someone notices how much he has. He considers using his inventory skill to make the money disappear, but he stops himself, remembering he shouldn't reveal his magic powers in public. He hands over a small pouch to Aina, telling her to pay for all the hard work she put in today. Aina is absolutely overwhelmed by the generous amount. Shiro gives her a friendly pat on the head and tells her to take the money and treat herself and her mom to a nice meal. When Aina tries to thank him again, Shiro jokingly bans her from saying it, insisting that he's the one who should be grateful for her help. Aina can't help but giggle at his silly new rule, though she secretly wants to keep thanking him for everything he's done for her. Suddenly, a loud growl comes from Aina's stomach, and she blushes in embarrassment. Shiro laughs and says it's definitely time for some lunch. Shiro reaches into his bag and pulls out a Western-style tuna mayo sandwich from Japan. Aina is mesmerized by the perfectly white, soft-looking bread. She takes a massive bite, and her eyes practically sparkle with delight at the strange but delicious flavor. Shiro is glad she likes it. As they sit by the side of the road, enjoying their meal, the sound of confident footsteps approaches them from behind. A sophisticated voice interrupts their lunch, asking Shiro if he has a moment to talk. Shiro looks up, still mid-bite of his sandwich. A tall woman in an elegant dress stands before them, explaining that she's heard rumors of a peddler selling matches in this market. Shiro quickly tells her that they've already sold out for the day, but she calmly explains that she isn't there to buy anything. She places a hand over her heart and tells him that she has a specific matter she wants to discuss with him personally. She introduces herself as Karen Sankarika, the mayor of the town, leaving Shiro completely floored by the sudden appearance of such an important figure. This stylish woman introduces herself as Karen. She's actually the mayor of this town. Shiro is floored. He definitely wasn't expecting the person in charge to look like this. In his head, he pictured someone much older and way more intimidating, not a beautiful woman his age. Karen bows and thanks him for choosing her town to set up shop. Shiro is humble about it, saying he's the one who should be doing the thanking. She's impressed. Most merchants who roll through here are arrogant and full of themselves. She suddenly gets intense, asking if he wants to hear just how badly they treat the locals. Meanwhile, Aina is out cold on the floor, dreaming about being stuffed full of food. Karen goes on a bit of a rant about how much effort she put into setting up this market. She eventually catches herself, leaving Shiro and Aina a bit stunned by the outburst. She holds out a fancy-looking key and tells him she wants him to have it. Shiro has no clue what's going on, and neither does Aina. Karen tries to make a joke, saying it's the key to her room. Aina takes it way too literally and starts screaming about a marriage proposal. Karen turns bright red and immediately starts yelling that she didn't mean it like that. She's totally flustered, trying to maintain her cool mayor image. After a quick cough to reset, she tries to get the conversation back on track. She points toward a massive, empty building across the way. It turns out his little match business has been a bit too successful. The lines at his stall were so long that the other merchants couldn't even sell their own stuff. Shiro realizes that staying where he is might actually cause some serious problems. Karen offers to show him around the empty store. The place is huge, and everything looks pristine. Shiro can hardly believe his luck. He's actually getting his own storefront. Aina leans in and whispers that the mayor probably wants to know if he has a girlfriend. Shiro's brain goes into panic mode, and he blurts out that he's super single right now. She snaps at him to shut up. That is definitely not what she wanted to ask. She wants to know why an expert merchant like him would bother doing business in a place like this. This town only has about 500 people. It's not exactly a gold mine. Shiro takes a moment to think about his answer. He tells her honestly that he just really likes the vibe of this town. He mentions how he met a hardworking girl like Aina and a kind mayor who welcomed him despite being an outsider. He's pretty sure he'll end up falling in love with the rest of the town too. Karen is genuinely touched by his sincerity. Shiro thinks back to all the friendly faces he's seen since he got here. The mayor actually starts to tear up, thanking him for the kind words. Aina immediately jumps in, teasing him for making a girl cry. They finally swap names properly. She tells him to just call her Karen from now on. They shake on it, officially sealing their new partnership. Sales go through the roof. In just 3 days, he went from a simple peddler to owning a brick-and-mortar shop. The next day, he swings by the town hall to sign a 1-month contract for the space. 5 days later, the new shop is a massive hit. They're already sold out for the day. Checking the ledger, Shiro is stunned. Despite everyone in town already owning matches, his sales are still hitting record highs. Aina finishes up the cleaning with a big smile, clearly proud of her hard work. Shiro tells her she's done enough and should head upstairs to rest. A bit later, Shiro brings some tea and snacks upstairs for them both. He finds her fast asleep on the couch. The poor girl was definitely more exhausted than she let on. He can't really blame her. She's only 8 years old, after all. Man, he really needs to be more careful with how much he lets her do. Aina blinks her eyes open, half asleep, and calls him Papa. Shiro is completely caught off guard. She reaches out and asks for some cuddles. Shiro is way too flustered to say no. He gently pulls her into a hug, looking a little embarrassed by the whole thing. Then, Aina mumbles something about giving cuddles to Mama, too. Shiro's heart practically skips a beat. She drifts right back into dreamland immediately after. Shiro is left standing there, wondering who exactly she meant by Mama. He gently tucks her in under a blanket. He promises himself that he'll do everything in his power to keep her this happy. Aina seems to hear him, letting out a soft, contented sigh in her sleep. It's the 6th day at the new store. Shiro gave Aina the day off, and man, running this place alone is absolutely exhausting. The shop bell rings, and Karen walks in. Shiro proudly tells her they've already sold out for the day. She mentions a rumor she heard. People have been buying his matches and reselling them in other towns for a fortune. That explains why sales are so high. Shiro starts thinking about putting a limit on how many boxes one person can buy to keep things fair. Karen gets a serious look on her face. She has a special request for him. Shiro can tell this isn't going to be a simple favor. He suggests they move upstairs to talk where it's more private. They settle in at the table with some tea. Shiro asks her what's on her mind. Karen starts by asking if he knows much about the town's Adventurers Guild. Shiro nods. He knows it's called Silver Moon. Karen seems a bit surprised he's already that well informed. To Shiro, the whole concept of an Adventurers Guild sounds exactly like a temp agency back in Japan. The guild acts as the middleman, taking jobs from citizens and sending adventurers out to get them done. Simple enough. If they succeed, they get paid. If they fail, they get nothing. It's a pretty straightforward business model. Usually, they're hired to deal with monsters that are causing trouble for locals or their livestock. Or sometimes it's just for gathering herbs and mushrooms. Silver Moon is the only guild in Ninurich that handles all of it. Then Karen brings up the guildmaster. Shiro immediately gets a little excited. In his head, he's picturing some legendary, battle-scarred warrior who commands respect from everyone. He leans forward, eager to hear more about this supposedly awesome leader. But Karen's expression stays grim. Shiro can feel the tension in the air and gulps. This isn't a story with a happy ending. Karen drops the bombshell. The guildmaster skipped town last night. Shiro is absolutely floored. And it gets worse. He took the guild's entire operating treasury with him. Now, all the adventurers are looking to jump ship. Karen explains that she might actually have a solution to this disaster. A massive adventurers guild from the capital has been wanting to set up a branch in Ninurich for a while now. Karen had always refused them to protect the local guild, but now she doesn't really have a choice. Shiro agrees it's their best shot. Karen admits that hearing him say that makes her feel a lot better. Shiro is trying his best to stay focused, but he's getting a little distracted. Anyway, she says that if she accepts their offer, the capital guild will send an inspector to their town. They need to be 100% sure that opening a branch in a place like Ninurich is actually worth the investment. And that's where Shiro comes in. Karen wants him to show off his amazing matches to the inspector. She admits she's never seen anything like them, not even in the capital. She's dying to know where he even found them. She quickly adds that she isn't trying to be nosy, but Shiro just offers a quick no comment on his sources. Shiro gets the plan. If the inspector is impressed by the town's local goods, the deal goes through and the guild branch opens. Mission complete. Shiro readily agrees to the plan. He even offers to find a few more unique items from his world that'll really blow the inspector's mind. Karen looks at him, her gaze softening. She tells him how kind he is and promises that she'll find a way to repay him for all his help. The very next day, business is as crazy as ever. Before the sun is even high in the sky, they're already sold out of everything, much to the disappointment of the crowd outside. Later on, Shiro is back at work, but he's completely lost in thought, humming to himself and clutching his head. Aina watches him, looking a little concerned. She innocently asks if he's okay, or if he just really needs to use the bathroom. Amita Shiro is stumped, trying to think of what item would actually impress a high-ranking inspector. Aina just watches him chew on his pen while he draws a total blank. Finally, he makes up his mind. He's going to head back to the town hall and pay Karen another visit. When he tells her his plan, Karen is completely taken aback. She didn't expect him to be this serious about getting involved. But Shiro isn't backing down. He's totally committed to this next step for his business. He drops the bombshell. He wants to join members from the guild and go on an actual adventure. The room goes quiet as Karen processes the request. A merchant going out into the field isn't exactly standard procedure in Ninurich. Shiro explains his logic. He needs to see firsthand what kind of gear adventurers actually use so he can stock the right inventory. Karen warns him that it's not a playground out there. The forest to the east is no joke. She describes the monsters roaming the woods, and they definitely don't look like something a peddler should be messing with. Shiro says he gets it, which is why he's planning to tag along with a group that's just out gathering basic supplies. Karen figures that's safe enough. She admits she'd love to help, but her relationship with the acting guild master is pretty much at rock bottom right now. She flashes back to the previous night when the acting guild master came stomping into her office, desperate for a handout. The poor girl was literally on the floor, begging and crying for Karen to just lend the guild some money. Shiro's curious about the numbers, but Karen's expression says it was a lot more than just pocket change. When she tells him it was 10 gold coins, which is about 10 million yen, Shiro almost loses it. Karen has to tell him to keep his voice down. She explains that a small town like theirs just doesn't have that kind of cash sitting around in the treasury. Shiro realizes why an introduction from the mayor might actually make things worse given the bad blood between them. Still, Karen agrees to write him a note, though she warns him not to get his hopes up for a warm welcome. Once the chat is over, Shiro heads to the east side of town where the Silver Moon Guild is located. Standing in front of the entrance, he starts feeling those first time inside a guild jitters. He creaks the door open and immediately gets kicked to the ground. This place is definitely not welcoming. A huge guy looms over him, calling him fresh meat and demanding he greet his seniors. Shiro panics and tells him he's just a peddler. The guy just laughs it off, mocking Shiro's terrified face while his buddy cheers on the wall slam. Shiro just wants to find the exit. He manages to slip away and bursts into a back room, slamming the door behind him to escape the chaos in the lobby. To his surprise, the room is empty, but he can hear someone absolutely bawling their eyes out nearby. The sobbing is coming from right behind the counter, sounding like someone's world just ended. Shiro tries to announce himself, mentioning the mayor sent him, but the person is in their own world of misery. He asks for help again, and a pair of long black ears finally twitch above the desk. A bunny girl looks up, her face a mess of tears and her hands clutching a bottle. This is Emil, the acting guildmaster. She jumps back in a total panic, screaming at him and demanding to know when he snuck in. Shiro notes she's wearing uniform, so he figures she must actually work there despite the breakdown. Emil gets immediately flustered, jumping to the conclusion that he's only there because he has a crush on her. She tries to act tough, claiming 1,000 super strong adventurers will come and kick his butt if he tries anything. Shiro points out the obvious. There isn't a soul in sight. The girl just clenches her fist, refusing to admit the place is a ghost town. She starts throwing weak little punches into the air, bragging about her strong fist that can supposedly smash rocks. Shiro is already regretting this visit. He cuts through the nonsense and tells her he's just looking for the acting guild master to talk business. She stops the fake fighting and gives him a serious look, revealing that she's the one in charge. The news hits Shiro like a ton of bricks. He can't believe this girl is actually the one running the guild. Emil starts explaining how she ended up as the Silver Moon's acting guildmaster. It's a pretty sad story. She explains that when the guild master disappeared, all the other employees basically vanished overnight, leaving her as the last one standing. Over some drinks, she complains that the other staff members were secretly dating and left together. She mimics them kissing and canoodling, clearly still bitter about being left to deal with the guild's collapse all by herself. Emil is still going off, wondering if the guild master and the others have been captured or sold as slaves. Honestly, she sounds like she's rooting for the slaves part. Amita Shiro is just mentally checking out after 5 straight hours of listening to her vent. He asks if she's finally done, but she's still fuming about that rotten, wet goblin of a boss. He decides to change the subject and hands over the letter he got from Mayor Karen earlier. Emil doesn't even look at the contents before she starts bad-mouthing the mayor. She calls her a pervert with an absurdly huge rack, which is a very specific complaint. Shiro's wondering if the translation ring is glitching out. Did she really just say that about the town leader? He tries to defend Karen's honor, but Emil is already in her own world of rage. She doesn't even open the letter. She just rips it right in half. That's one way to say return to sender. She screams about how much she hates unfaithfulness and fickleness. She's really projecting a lot of baggage onto this piece of paper. She's convinced Karen is just trying to get rid of them, so she can lure some other guild to Ninrich. She even asks Shiro to agree with her, which is a total trap. She drops back to the floor, calling the mayor a stingy cow and a miser for not giving her those 10 gold coins, even after she begged on her knees. Shiro tries to explain that 10 gold coins is a massive amount of money, and Karen has a lot on her plate, but Emil is already accusing him of siding with that old maid. Suddenly the anger vanishes, and she starts bawling again, screaming that Karen is actually her best friend. Talk about an emotional roller coaster. She's back to puddles of tears on the floor, calling Shiro a jerk for saying horrible things about her best friend. She sprawls out on the counter, completely defeated. If the guild doesn't get some cash soon, it's game over for them. Shiro realizes he's not getting anywhere with letters, so he decides to just cut to the chase and rummages through his pocket for something else. He pulls out a modern handkerchief for her to dry her eyes and makes her a real offer. He wants to hire the Silver Moon Guild for a job. That gets her attention. She sits up, wipes her face, and finally asks what exactly he needs. Shiro explains he wants to tag along on a quest as an observer. Emil notes that it would basically be an escort mission, something they haven't really done before. Shiro's a bit worried by her hesitation, but she clarifies that she actually has one party in mind who could pull it off. The party in question is currently out in the forest, and they're not your average rookies. They're a silver-ranked group known as Blue Flash, and they look like they mean business. The next morning, Shiro is closing up his shop early. Aina is there, looking a bit surprised that he's really going through with this. He tells her he'll only be gone for about 3 days on this trial adventure. Aina is totally fine with it, spinning around to show off her own backpack. She's got her own chores and plenty to do while he's away. Shiro asks what kind of things she's up to, but she just brushes it off as nothing important. That's not suspicious at all. He gives her a nod, tightens his shoelaces, and gets ready to move out. Aina gives him a sweet little pat and tells him to be careful out there. Shiro arrives back at the Silver Moon Guild and pushes through the doors. Emil is right there to greet him, looking way more energized than she was the day before. She tries to act all cute and flirty, telling him she doesn't bite, but Shiro is just having flashbacks to her 5-hour meltdown. She leads him over to meet the escorts she promised, the 4 finest silver-ranked adventurers in the guild. The leader, Rhea, recognizes Shiro immediately. He's the guy who bought matches from him on his very first day in town. First up is Rolf, the party's priest. He looks like a friendly, stocky guy with a big smile. But Emil warns him that Rolf is no ordinary priest. He's a battle priest who turns into a total beast the moment he pulls out that massive mace. Next is Neska, the mage. She's petite and quiet, hiding under a giant hat and clutching a staff with a creepy eye on it. Neska mumbles a greeting, but Rhea mentions she's a bit slow with her incantations, which is a pretty big concern in a fight. She doesn't seem to care about the critique, just mumbling that she'll think about it, while Rhea tells her to work on her casting speed. Finally, there's Kilfa. She's a cat Sith ranger who practically teleports in to introduce herself with a playful meow. Shiro is mesmerized by her ears, and Kilfa's used to it. Most clients are busy grumbling about having a cat Sith in the party. She's the party scout and trap finder, and she makes sure Shiro knows she can handle herself with a bow or a dagger. Rhea tells the group not to let her cute act fool them. Her number one talent is actually running away from danger. Kilfa just laughs it off. With everyone ready and a high five to seal the deal, the party heads out of the guild and into the forest. While Shiro is heading into the danger of the forest, Aina is busy with her own mysterious errands, walking through the town with a focused look. She stops at a local tavern and pushes the swinging doors open with a quiet, "Excuse me," catching the attention of the few patrons inside. Inside, the blindfolded regular at the bar smirks and greets her as the kid from before. Aina isn't there for small talk, though. She's here to deliver on a secret promise she made. As she prepares to settle her business, a heavy door in the back creaks open, hinting that Aina's chores might be more than Shiro ever suspected. Rolf and Neska stay alert as they push through the thick undergrowth. Kilfa and Rhea take the lead, keeping their ears open for any signs of trouble. Shiro's finally off on his very first adventure, and he's silently praying everything stays safe. The group of 5 makes their way deep into the forest. Rhea tells Shiro not to sweat it. They're going to avoid monsters as much as possible. They're actually hunting for high-quality medicinal herbs, but Rolf says they've only found common weeds so far. The party stops to check the horizon as the sun begins to dip below the trees. Rhea takes a look at the light and starts thinking about setting up camp for the night. He calls for a rest, telling everyone that staying productive means not pushing past their limits. Hearing that makes Shiro actually tear up. His old abusive boss back in Japan would never have been that reasonable. Kilfa drops off a load of firewood while the guys get the campsite situated. Shiro breaks out his matches to get the fire going, and the simple tech already has everyone impressed. Rhea thinks Shiro's got a gold mine on his hands and suggests selling those matches in the capital. He leans in and whispers a warning. It's only a matter of time before the powerful guilds of the capital start taking an interest in him. Neska's stomach lets out a loud growl, signaling it's finally time for the group to eat. Shiro watches as she starts gnawing on some rock-hard adventure rations. Kilfa notices Shiro hasn't pulled out any food and offers to share some of her dried meat. He politely declines, reaching into his massive backpack for his own secret stash. The party is stunned when he pulls out a bunch of shiny containers they've never seen before. He lays out a spread of Earth's finest, instant noodles, canned fish, and even some chocolate. Everyone starts sniffing the air as Shiro explains he brought enough to share with everyone. He's using them as a focus group, asking for their honest opinions since he wants to sell this stuff in his shop. They don't need to be asked twice and dive right into the food. The quiet forest is suddenly filled with the sound of intense slurping. It's a total hit. Rolf thinks it's a blessing from the gods and Neska is losing her mind over the snacks. After trying everything, the group's verdict is unanimous. Earth food is absolutely top tier. Everyone is stuffed and happy, with Neska already promising she'll never forget the taste of chocolate. Rhea tells Shiro he can head to bed while the rest of them handle the night watch. Shiro isn't quite ready for sleep and asks if they can just hang out and chat for a bit. He notices they're just sitting on the ground and asks why adventurers don't use sleeping bags. Rhea explains that blankets are safer because they need to be able to jump up and fight at a moment's notice. He sighs, wishing just one of them had a rare inventory skill to carry better camping gear. Shiro nearly chokes on his drink, asking just how rare that skill actually is in this world. Rhea tells him it's basically legendary, found only in ancient books or in 1 in a million people. Shiro tries to play it cool and asks what a skill like that would even be worth on the market. Rhea tells him it's mansion-buying money, even for a low-level version. Shiro realizes he was smart to keep his own inventory skill a total secret as he decides to finally turn in. But before he can even lay down, Rhea suddenly spins around and draws his sword. He quickly rouses Kilfa and Rolf, telling Shiro to go wake Neska up immediately. Something massive is rumbling through the forest, and Rhea warns everyone to get ready. Meanwhile, Neska is still totally out of it, giggling in her sleep about the chocolate. Shiro has to practically shake her awake because the situation just got very real. Kilfa sniffs the air, trying to track the source of the noise, but she can't catch a scent. Rhea realizes they're dealing with a smart monster that's staying downwind to hide its location. Suddenly, a massive murder grizzly bursts from the trees, towering over the terrified group. Rhea tells everyone they can't outrun it, and they definitely can't win a head-on fight against a beast this high-ranked. He knows fleeing is pointless. These bears are too fast, and only Kilfa has a chance of getting away. Kilfa refuses to leave her friends behind, but Rhea reminds her that staying means certain death for everyone. Rhea decides that one person has to stay and fight as a decoy to give the others a chance to escape. Shiro starts doing the math in his head, realizing that as the weakest random stranger in the group, he's the most logical choice for the sacrifice. He can see the grim look on their faces and knows he's about to be asked to die, so they can live. Rhea puts a hand on Shiro's shoulder, looking like he's about to deliver the bad news. Shiro prepares himself for the worst, sweating buckets as he waits for Rhea to ask him to be the decoy. But Rhea surprises him. He tells Shiro to take the girls and run while he and Rolf stay behind to draw the bear's attention. Rolf steps up without hesitation, but Neska refuses to leave, insisting she'll stay and fight alongside them. Rhea tells her she's way too slow and would just be in the way. Besides, he jokes that he wants to look cool in front of the girl he likes. Rhea tells Rolf to get his healing magic ready and prays he doesn't get taken out in a single hit. He draws his sword and takes a deep breath, bracing for the impact as he orders the others to run. But just as they're about to move, the brush rustles again. There's not just one murder grizzly, there are two. The second bear lets out a deafening roar, and everyone realizes their situation just went from bad to impossible. Rhea shouts for Kilfa and Neska to get out of there immediately, while he and Rolf try to handle both beasts. Neska stares in despair, knowing this is the end for all of them. Shiro remembers his grandmother's words about never giving up, no matter how dire things look. He starts rummaging through his bag, looking for something specific while the grizzlies close in. Rhea looks back and yells at Shiro to get moving, wondering what the hell he's still doing there. Instead of running, Shiro pulls out a handful of firecrackers and flings them toward the massive bear. The explosions go off with a series of loud cracks and bright flashes, completely disorienting the beast. The party is baffled as the firecrackers create some much-needed distance between them and the grizzlies. Shiro isn't done yet, though. He pulls out a canister of Magnum Blaster bear spray and tells the grizzly it's about to regret everything. The bear lets out a cry of agony as the concentrated pepper spray hits it square in the face. Rhea warns Shiro about the second bear lunging at him from behind. The second grizzly roars and swipes at the air, but Shiro is ready. He lets out a massive blast of the deterrent right into the second bear's snout. Both bears are now completely incapacitated, clutching their faces in pain as the intense spray blinds and chokes them. Shiro is impressed with how well the earth tech worked. If this were a game, he'd call that a critical hit. Rhea and the others are in total shock, staring at the spray can and wondering if Shiro just used some kind of high-level magic. Shiro explains it's just a tool that sprays a poisonous mist to disable a target's sight and smell. Rhea is amazed by the poison and tells everyone they need to finish the job before the effect wears off. He looks at the helpless beasts, realizing no adventurer would pass up a chance like this. With a glint in his eye, Rhea leads the charge for some easy retribution. Kilfa, Rolf, and Neska all nod, ready to deliver the final blow to the monsters that nearly killed them. The grizzlies don't stand a chance, shivering in fear as the hunters become the prey. The party celebrates their unlikely victory, standing over the massive carcasses with a triumphant cheer. As they start to relax, Shiro turns to Rhea and casually asks if it's true that he likes Neska. Rhea and Neska are both beet red, completely caught off guard by Shiro's blunt question about Rhea's feelings. Rhea panics, stuttering, and trying to change the subject as fast as possible. He frantically points at the dead bears, shouting that they don't have time for gossip because they need to harvest the valuable loot. The group gets to work, with Shiro giving everyone specific instructions on how to handle the different parts of the grizzlies. Shiro is actually grossed out by the whole thing. Rhea finishes skinning the first bear, while Kilfa asks what she should do with the parts used for medicine. Shiro is just cringing. Rolf and Kilfa get everything packed up as instructed, while Shiro winces at the anatomical conversation. Rhea looks at the massive pile of loot and sighs, realizing they've completely run out of carrying space. Shiro tells him he needs to ask him something. Shiro asks if they can just call it a day and head back to town, since they've already got way more than they came for. Rhea agrees, saying they need to get the materials back before they start to spoil, as they're worth a fortune. Rhea tells Shiro that since he's the one who took the bears down, half the loot rightfully belongs to him. Shiro is shocked by the offer. Rhea points out that they'd all be dead if it wasn't for Shiro's weird item, and he knows it must have been expensive. Shiro just smiles and tells them not to worry about it, because no item is worth more than a human life. Rhea thinks Shiro is way too nice for his own good. Kilfa is so moved by Shiro's kindness that she tackles him in a massive hug, declaring how much she likes him. Shiro is being crushed. The rest of the group watches the chaotic scene with a mix of amusement and exhaustion. Shiro finally manages to catch his breath. Neska and Rolf both agree that Shiro is a truly good person, and the world would be better if all merchants were like him. Shiro is blushing. Shiro laughs it off, feeling a bit embarrassed by all the praise. He's glad he could help them out. Rhea brings up the journey back, still worried about how they're going to carry all this heavy loot with just their backpacks. Shiro thinks he can help. Shiro offers to carry the murder grizzly parts. Rhea looks at Shiro's skinny arms and bursts out laughing, thinking he's joking. Shiro just says, "Open." Rhea is still laughing when Shiro activates his skill, catching the attention of the whole group. A massive rift of light opens in the air, and Shiro reveals he has the rare inventory skill. The group is absolutely floored. None of them have ever seen anything like it. Shiro apologizes for not mentioning it earlier. Rhea tells him he has nothing to apologize for. They literally owe him their lives several times over today. Shiro is just happy to help. With the loot safely tucked away in his spatial storage, Shiro hoists his backpack and says it's time to head back to Ninrich. Shiro's bag is actually light now. Rhea realizes that since they don't have to carry anything, they have plenty of time to look for those medicinal herbs on the way back. Shiro is just happy to go home. The trial adventure continues until the following day, though Shiro's narration admits they didn't find much else worth mentioning. Shiro is done with adventuring for a while. They finally make it back to town, and Aina is there to greet them, waving excitedly as Shiro approaches. Shiro is happy to see her. Rhea asks if Aina is Shiro's daughter. Shiro quickly clears it up, explaining that she's his employee and works at a shop. Aina is being shy. Rhea introduces himself to Aina, while Shiro gives her the key to the shop and tells her to wait for him there. Shiro has some business to attend to. Shiro heads over to the Silver Moon Guild to wrap things up and officially complete the quest. Rhea is glad to be back. As they enter the guild, they hear a loud commotion. Emil is on her knees, crying and begging for more time to get some money. Shiro is confused. The guild staff are watching in shock, wondering what on earth is going on. Shiro is worried about her. A man is screaming at Emil, telling her he's been waiting for 6 months and he's not leaving until he gets paid. Emil is terrified. Shiro is getting a bad feeling. Shiro asks who the guy is. Rhea explains that he's a loot merchant who's clearly trying to squeeze Emil for everything she's got. Shiro is disgusted. Shiro steps forward and introduces himself as a merchant, asking what the issue is. He's not going to let this slide. Shiro is ready to help. The man introduces himself as Gerald, a loot merchant. He starts explaining how he lent the Silver Moon Guild 10 gold coins when they were first hit with money troubles. He waves a contract in front of Emil, demanding she look at the terms. He slams his hand on the desk, shouting that he's taking the guild hall if he isn't paid back right now. Gerald asks Emil why she's still so loyal to a guild master who clearly abandoned her. Emil stares back, telling him it's not even about loyalty. She explains that after being looked down on for her race, this guild was the first place she ever felt like she belonged. She thinks back on all the memories here, all the times the good ones finally started to outweigh the bad. Shiro watches her, realizing how much a home can really mean to someone. It reminds him of a summer 5 years ago, back in his old world. His family had been talking about selling his grandmother's house, and his blood had run cold. He dropped to his knees, begging them not to sell the one place where all his memories of her lived. It was embarrassing, but back then, he felt like it was worth any humiliation to save her home. Back in the present, Gerald tells her it's not his problem as he gets ready to leave. Emil hands over the title deed with trembling hands, but Shiro calls out for them to hold on. He pulls out his loot and asks if he can sell it to the guild instead. Gerald is shocked by the rare color of the murder grizzly part Shiro is carrying. He tries to buy it himself, but Shiro says he'd much rather sell it to the Silver Moon. Emil is confused because the guild is broke, but Shiro tells her they don't have to pay him back right away. Rhea and the rest of the party step up, offering to sell their share of the grizzly loot too. Emil is overjoyed, while Gerald desperately tries to outbid the guild at 32 gold. She just smiles and tells him the price is now 36. Gerald can't believe it. He does the math. After paying him back, the guild is still coming away with 26 gold. He adjusts his bag and heads for the door, promising they haven't seen the last of him. Rhea lets out a huge breath, glad that close call is finally over. Emil breaks down, thanking Shiro over and over again for saving the guild hall. The party tells her that Shiro is the only one who deserves any thanks. She looks up at him, asking if he's planning on staying for a bit. Then she suddenly starts shooing him out, telling him his business here is finished. Shiro is confused. He's supposed to be here for the end of quest procedures. Emil starts panicking, swearing she didn't spend the money that was meant for the adventurers. Rhea holds his hand out, telling her it's time to cough up their pay. Shiro mentions he gave her 100 silver coins for the escort quest specifically. Everyone looks at Emil, realizing she's short 70 coins. Rhea grabs her by the ears, just as she tries to sneak away from the counter. Neska starts charging up a magic circle, looking ready to roast the bunny girl. Even the cat girl and the priest have reached their limit with her excuses. Emil bolts for it, crying that she'll never do it again as the party chases her. A massive explosion rocks the guild. Shiro's just glad he didn't bring Aina to see that. Later, Shiro makes it back to his own shop, where Aina is waiting to welcome him back. He starts telling her about everything that happened out in the forest. Aina is impressed, cheering for him when she hears he beat 2 murder grizzlies. Shiro tries to be modest, saying the Blue Flash crew did all the heavy lifting during the hunt. Aina is not having it though. She knows they'd all be dead if he hadn't stepped in. Suddenly, there's a loud banging on the door. It's Karen, and she sounds like she's in a bit of a rush to see him. The mayor bursts in and immediately pulls Shiro into a bone-crushing hug. He's basically disappearing into her outfit at this point. Once he finally manages to breathe again, Shiro tells her he's fine and that he learned quite a lot on his first outing. Shiro mentions he needs some time to restock his inventory. Karen just smiles and tells him he can drop the act now. She leans in close and asks him point-blank if he has a storage skill or some kind of magic item for his wares. Shiro's face gives him away immediately. Karen laughs, calling him a terrible liar. She says she had a feeling from the first time they met. He has the same vibe as other people she knows with rare skills. Shiro's just impressed, wondering if that's what people call a woman's intuition. Turns out she was just bluffing to get him to spill his secret. She admits she was being a bit loose with the truth. Shiro can't believe he fell for it so easily. Karen pats him on the shoulder as a negotiation lesson. She warns him that the people he deals with in business won't always be honest with him. Shiro decides it's time to show her exactly what he's planning to present to the inspector. He pulls out some modern gear, and both Karen and Aina are completely mesmerized by the new items. Karen admits she's never seen anything like this in her life. Shiro's definitely going to make an impression. Later that day, the shop bell rings. Rhea and Neska drop by to check in on things. Rhea is impressed with how well organized the place is. Shiro gives all the credit to Aina's hard work. Apparently, Neska and Rhea started dating after their dangerous trip to the forest. Shiro's not sure how to feel about it. Rhea mentions that some big shot from a major adventurers guild is coming to town to open a local branch. Shiro hopes they're one of the good ones, but Rhea's expression says otherwise. He explains that there are some notoriously bad guilds out there that people try to avoid. Neska lists off a few names, but says the absolute worst of the bunch are the Maze Marauders. Aina remembers Karen mentioning that name before. Shiro starts wondering what kind of reputation they actually have. Rhea looks like he's expecting the worst from his visit. He points out that since the town is so isolated, normally only adventurers care about this kind of guild politics. Shiro looks out over the town, realizing how hard it is for people to stay informed when there's no internet or social media. Karen is hard at work in her office, looking serious as she prepares for the meeting. Aina notices the inspector is running pretty late. She wonders if they just got lost on the way. Shiro is absolutely bored out of his mind, waiting around at the counter. Karen and her staff have been waiting at the town entrance since yesterday, looking more anxious by the minute. The evening bell finally rings. Shiro tells Aina she's done for the day and sends her home. He starts closing up the shop, thinking it's going to be a quiet night. A mysterious woman in a hat pops in, apologizing for coming by so late in the day. She's heard about the fabled matches and wants to see them for herself. Shiro offers to show her one in action. She's clearly impressed by the simple tech. Shiro then introduces her to his next item, the survival sheet. He explains it's a special blanket designed to protect the user from extreme cold. She tries it on and is shocked by how warm it is despite being so thin. She buys the gear, but says she's in a rush and has to excuse herself immediately. Shiro wonders why she's in such a hurry. A few days later, Aina comes sprinting up to the shop, completely out of breath. She yells that the inspector is finally here and is meeting with the mayor. Shiro's confused. The plan was for him to show them around town later in the day. Aina tells him the plan's changed, and everyone is already waiting for him over at the Silver Moon Guild. Shiro sees a massive shadow looming in the distance. Karen warns Shiro that the inspector, Mr. Gabbs, is proving to be even more difficult to deal with than she anticipated. She asks Shiro to just bear with the man's rude attitude for the sake of the town. Shiro reassures her that he's used to dealing with people like this and won't lose his cool. Karen introduces Shiro as the top merchant in Ninrich. Shiro gives a polite bow, and Aina follows his lead, introducing herself as his assistant. Mr. Gabbs is immediately dismissive, calling Shiro a brat and mocking the fact that his only employee is a young child. Shiro's eye starts to twitch. He sneers at the guild hall, calling it filthy and questioning why the demi-humans like Emil aren't cleaning it properly. Emil is furious, insisting that she cleans the place every single day, but Gabbs just laughs and asks if she even understands the concept of cleanliness. Karen tries to steer the conversation back to business, but Gabbs continues his verbal assault, suggesting that demi-humans like Emil should be put down. He finally turns his attention to the merchandise and picks up one of Shiro's matches, which he's heard so much about. After lighting one, he begrudgingly admits that Shiro's wares are at least passable for a peddler. Gabbs announces that he's willing to set up a branch of the Maze Marauders Guild in town, but he has a list of non-negotiable conditions. His first demand is that the Maze Marauders must be the only guild allowed to operate in Ninrich. He asks for the name of the current puny guild. When Emil says it's the Silver Moon, he tells her to shut it down immediately, claiming he doesn't care about them. He lists more conditions. The new guild must be exempt from taxes, and the town itself must pay for the construction of their new guild hall. Karen and Emil are stunned. Finally, Gab slams a box down and demands exclusive selling rights to Shiro's matches. He insults Shiro again, calling him slow on the uptake and mocking his professional skills as a peddler. He clarifies his demand. The Maze Marauders intend to buy up every single match Shiro has in stock. Shiro listens in silence. Karen tries to protest, saying that asking for exclusive rights is going way too far. Gabbs just calls her a dimwit and tells her to quiet down. He completely dismisses the mayor's concerns, acting like she simply doesn't understand how high-level business works. Using a map, he explains that with branches all over the kingdom, the Maze Marauders would make Shiro's matches available to everyone. Gabbs gets a greedy look in his eyes, talking about the insane amount of profit and how much he loves the smell of money. Shiro calmly acknowledges the offer is appealing, but he formally declines. He explains that he can't produce enough stock to satisfy that many people. Gabbs is shocked by the refusal. Karen stands her ground, stating that if the matches are a requirement, she's no longer interested in the guild branch at all. Gabbs snaps, slamming his hand down. He's outraged that after traveling all this way, his help is being rejected by a backwater town. He continues to trash Ninrich, calling it a place out in the sticks with a puny little guild. Rhea watches from the back, looking very stern. Shiro tries to point out the town's value, mentioning the rare herbs and minerals in the forest and the adventurers who rely on the town as a base. Gabbs just bursts out laughing, finding Shiro's defense of the town completely ridiculous. He leans in close to Shiro, calling all the adventurers in this town two-bit losers who couldn't make it anywhere else. Nesca and Rhea are visibly shaking with rage as they listen to him insult their entire profession in town. Gabbs tells Shiro that the town's future rests in his hands, and that only his guild can make this backwater flourish. Shiro stares back at him, his eyes filled with a growing coldness as he listens to the man's threats. When Shiro asks for time to think it over, Gabbs just dismisses him with a wave, saying he's far too busy a man to wait around. He offers a final deal. If Shiro accepts, they'll bring in new staff to replace that little kid, Aina. Gabbs goes too far, calling Aina useless and insulting the filthy demi-humans once again. That's the absolute limit for Shiro. Shiro delivers a crushing punch straight to the inspector's face. Behind him, Emil screams at the jerk to go to hell, finally letting out all her built-up frustration.